series. I have book 2 is in the very end process of editing right now, and book 3 is I'm in the very beginning process of writing. So I'm still working on that. Right now I'm working on a contemporary YA book with a friend of mine, and then I settled on like the next sort of concept that I want to attack for my next middle grade series, but I can't really talk about that because that's years in the making. So, I wasn't sure that I wanted to work in middle grade again. I wasn't sure how I felt about children as an audience because I like people to be able to cuss and drive and do stuff like that. But I went out on a very brief tour recently. I got to meet like something like 2,000 kids over the course of a week, and they were so great and so excited about these books and so excited to meet authors that I think I definitely want to stay in the middle grade world for a while. Yeah.
Is there a specific reason you chose to make Alex 12 years old?
12 is kind of the magic number in middle grade. If you think back on like the Percy Jackson books, Percy Jackson was 12. I think Harry Potter was 11 or something like that. Middle grade is a really strange world because so it's 8 to 12-year-olds. The younger kids want to read about someone who's around their age or older. So usually, if you get to the end of the spectrum, that's a pretty safe bet. If you get to 13, you start to hit puberty, and then things get weird. So 12 is kind of like the magic middle grade number. Yeah.
Do any of the characters in your book, for example, anyone you know in real life?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it because the mom is a supervillain, and I've been telling my mom for about 6 months now that it's not based on her. I don't know that she believes me yet, but that character is not based on anyone. I can't think of any characters that are specifically based on people that I know. I stole a lot of my friends' names for the books. But I did whenever I was growing up, or when I was at TCU, I would babysit a kid, and I watched him grow from like 8, 9, 10, 11. And anyone who says that kids can't be supervillains have never tried to wrangle a birthday party at Six Flags over Texas. And so I definitely found myself drawing on him and his friends whenever I was thinking to myself, oh, what are kids like? And remembering that like kids are often a lot smarter than we think they are. So inquisitive and kind of aware of the world in a way that we're not aware of them. So I definitely drew from those experiences. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Taylor from the report from the TCU yearbook staff.
Hi.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
First is, what is the most important thing that the English department has taught you that helped you write this book?
What is the most important thing to the English department? I want to say my immediate response is how to, just cover your ears. My immediate response is how to procrastinate effectively. I took a lot of, like, taking a lot of English courses, you're doing a lot of writing, and you kind of get, you kind of learn to understand like how your writing process works and how long you need to write an essay. But honestly, it was probably the importance of revision and the importance of editing, especially working on in the essay course and having to show how an essay or a piece of writing had evolved and how it had been refined over the course of the semester. And on a larger field for my senior honors thesis, that was work that was done over the course of 2 years, so there were countless revisions that went through that. Because I think a lot of people just look at a book and say, oh, it was probably, there was a draft and then someone edited it and then it came out into the world, which is not at all how that works.
And then also, what do you hope students will take away from this reading this event?
I'm a big TCU fan, and the publishing world and the world of writing, the world of being an author, is very scary to look at, and I'm still adjusting to being able to like walk into a bookstore and see my book. But it can be done, and especially since TCU has a writing program now, you have such good professors here, and you have such opportunities here that you really have to take advantage of, or else they're just being wasted. And I've been so lucky to have professors who I've kept in contact with over the years who, if I needed a advice or if I needed them to like give a once-over on an essay that I was doing, they were always very accommodating. So I'm so thankful for that. So take advantage of your resources while you have them, because once you graduate, you will miss like not having LexisNexis and stuff like that. Trust me, I do all the time.
For TCU in general, is there anything that happened during your TCU career that like inspired you to write for this age group, or was it just like after TCU graduated, or did you already have a heart for this age group?
I think most of it was after TCU because this was the first piece of fiction I really worked on, and so the way I approached it was I'll write the book that I wanted to read when I was like 12 years old, being like a big nerd and so I'll have superpowers and stuff like that. I will say I took Dr. Steele's London Through a Child's Eyes class, which was all about looking at children's literature as an adult and like sort of looking at the sort of things that as a kid I never realized when I was reading Peter Pan or Harry Potter, that as an adult I can look at an academic perspective and say, oh, hey, this is actually doing work and informing me as a reader and informing adults of like social status and things like that. So I definitely found myself like thinking back to courses such as that whenever I was working with kids' books.
Yeah. Does Alex remain the main character like throughout the whole series? Like, is it about him kind of maturing into his own supervillainy, or what? Yeah, well, I don't want to give too much of it away. Alex stays the main character for all 3 books, so it doesn't die at the end. Sorry. But as you may have been able to divine from this reading, things get very complicated for Alex as he has to. The Cloak Society is gearing up for this big assault against the Rangers of Justice, while at the same time, he has to really figure out how he exists in this world, and what his purpose is, and what his role is, and what he feels is right, and whether or not that jives with what he's been taught and what his parents have told him his entire life, which is a fairly common theme in a lot of children's fiction and a lot of middle grade novels, is an introspective look of how do I fit into this world, which is so much larger than I am.
How did you come up with the name, the Cloak Society, like for all the villains? Like,
that's a great question. The Cloak Society, well, actually, Cloak is on the very first page of notes that I ever made for this book. It literally just says Cloak and then has a list of superpowers I think are cool. And then later, within like a different pen, it says Society underneath. I honestly have no idea where I got Cloak from. I think it just, I was thinking like of Bond villain names like Spectre and stuff that like is like a hard, like kind of imposing sounding name. And then I was like, oh, well then I can use cloaks for the costumes, then it'll be fun. And then I added Society because as the book kind of like I was fleshing out the outline and fleshing out the history of the Cloak Society. It goes back 4 generations, and so a lot of this history doesn't actually make it into the book, but the history of the Cloak Society very closely resembles the history of comic books. So you have like the Silver Age, Bronze Age, Modern Age, and stuff like that, and like they begin taking themselves more seriously as the years progress. And so I like the idea of like all of these like Mad Men supervillains running around at like the Cloak Society was like a supervillain country club. And so I think that's how Society ended up getting added to it. I also really like the old supervillain names like the Legion of Doom and the Super Friends and stuff like that. Like I like the formality of it.
All right, time for one more. Oh, yes.
Would you ever be interested in writing anything, any genre besides fiction?
Yeah, well, my undergrad thesis is in nonfiction, and my MFA is in nonfiction. So this was really a departure for me in terms of like what I was used to. I have my honors or my Columbia thesis, which is a collection of essays that I'm just now getting a chance to like go back to and try to refine it. Like I'm submitting. I just had a couple rejected last week, so let that be a lesson to all of you that you can have books come out all the time and people are still going to reject your writing. It's just how it works. So yeah, I definitely, I'm looking forward to having the chance to like write in different genres and experiment. I have time ahead of me, so hopefully I have the chance to do that.
Okay, well, I just want to remind you that the Cloak Society is for sale out there, and Jeramey's going to be seated right here to sign books at the class upstairs. It'll be a big event. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.